Hello, everyone. Welcome to Let's Talk Physical. Yesterday, I was on the phone with Carrie Colaton from Doors and Record Store Day, and she mentioned that today would have been Olivia Newton-John's 75th birthday. And I sat down this morning, I pulled a clip of Let's Get Physical, was going to you here right now, but we had some technical difficulties. So sorry that the song will not be stuck in your head the rest of the afternoon. I was very much looking forward to it because it's, a very kind of throwback video. And definitely, was the inspiration behind the name for this event. Just a little information on the song that I found out when I was doing some research this morning. It was recorded in 1981 and released on an album bearing the same name. It was written by Steve Kepner and Terry Shadick. And it was originally intended for Rod Stewart. Rod then declined, and so did Tina Turner. It was Tina's manager, who was also Olivia Newton-John's manager, that gave Olivia the opportunity to record. Physical was an immediate smash, with shipping 2 million copies in the United States. It was certified platinum by the RIAA and spent 10 consecutive weeks at #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. It ultimately became Newton-John's biggest hit and cemented her legacy as a pop star. That she wanted to be a pop star. Up until that point, she was, a country pop kind of star. So the song's suggestive lyrics caused it to be banned in some markets, but it helped Newton-John's longstanding clean-cut image, replacing it with a sexy persona that she portrayed in that video. So sorry I can't show you the video, but happy birthday, Olivia Newton-John, and thanks for the inspiration for Let's Talk Physical. For those of you that don't know me, I am Nicole Hennessy. I am the Vice President and Director of Communications here at Music Biz. I am the staff liaison for the Physical Business Action Committee. The committee is open to association members, wholesalers, and retailers. The members of this committee, our main goal is to work to level the playing field across physical and digital and streaming formats by promoting the value of the physical music retailers of all sizes, and really letting the industry and the media know that physical product is thriving and healthy. And we see that with some numbers that we're going to see here from Luminate in just a minute. But if you would like to join the committee, interested, please reach out to me. It's nicole.hennessy@musicbiz.org. We'd love to get you set up and joining those meetings and having these conversations. It's the committee that helps put together the agenda for these events. So thank you to all my committee members for that. I'm going to turn the microphone now over to Steve Harkins from Ingram Entertainment. Steve is the chair of the PBAC, and he has a few short words for you here as we begin.
Thank you, Nicole. Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for attending today. And thank you, Nicole, for that background on the origin of the name of this session. And also to Carrie, be thankful we're not playing that song. That means you don't have to watch me dance to that song. So that's an upgrade for sure. Nicole does a great job on behalf of the Music Business Association. So thank you, Nicole, for everything you do for the Physical Business Action Committee. And I also want to call out those committee members that serve it and do so without any compensation. So we appreciate all of their work they put behind this. That's Justin Johnson, Terry Courier, Marquetta Rodriguez, John Coons, Ken Glazer, Carl Mello, Andrea Peschel, Carrie Collin, Sue Brian Vega. So thank you very much, folks. You're in for another hour and a half of fun-filled, fact-based information. So thanks again for being here today. And let's jump right into it, shall we? I would like to introduce from Luminate, the Senior Director of Music Insights and Industry Relations, Jamie Marconet. Hi, Jamie.
Hey, Steve. Thank you so much. Thank you, Nicole. Thank you, Music Biz. Love coming and sharing what we're seeing on the Luminate side in terms of sales with you. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. All right, you should be seeing my screen share now. I am Jamie Markinet, Senior Director of Music Insights, Industry Relations at Luminate. I am based out of Nashville, Tennessee. And again, thank you so much, Steve. Thank you, Nicole. Thank you, Music Biz. I love coming in and sharing what we're seeing in terms of our sales data, as well as some of our consumer research stats to help paint a picture of what we're seeing from the Luminate side. So for today, I want to go through a quick agenda. We will do a physical product marketplace overview. I want to talk about D2C a little bit more and what we're seeing on the Luminate side, and then we'll jump into some additional stats about vinyl and CDs. If you're not familiar with Luminate, I haven't joined one of these in the past, we are the leader in music consumption and audience intelligence. We focus on consumption, that's sales and streaming. We have consumption data for the United States as well as 47 other countries. We focus on consumer insights in over 30 territories. And again, the theme is, we have a very global look, and we are looking to calculate and be able to provide insights and stats on music all over the world. A lot of people do know us as the official data partner for the Billboard charts. So with that introduction out of the way, let's jump right in. So for 2023, right now, all physical categories, that's vinyl, that's CDs, that's cassettes, they are up over 2022. And overall, physical is up 11.3% right now. You'll see that vinyl, the reporting is up 20.1% over last year. CDs 1.5 as of 9/14 or week 37 over the same period as last year. And cassettes are up as well. As we go through the deck, most of the data that you're going to see is up through the week ending 9/14/23. That's week 37. And when we're comparing, we always compare to the same period of the previous year. The D2C section is a little different, and we are going to look at a half year look for that right there. But as you can also see on this slide right here, we are seeing that some of the really spectacular growth that occurred at the beginning of the year has started to slow down just a little bit as we got into the second quarter and then now through week 37. And so what I'm showing right here is a look at each category. Now, to be clear, each category is up over last year, right? But when we were when we were wrapping up quarter one, you can see that the vinyl there on the left-hand side was up around, I think it was 26%. But then quarter two, vinyl was up a little over 20%, and now we're sitting at 21%. You can see the same thing with cassettes, a steeper drop off from quarter one to quarter two in terms of the amount of growth over last year. So I just want to make sure that I'm clear on that, is that it's still growing. It's just we saw some really big gains in the beginning of the year because of some of the releases that came in the fall. I'm thinking specifically about like a Taylor Swift Midnights. So those spectacular gains have started to slide off just a little bit, but we are in a really, really good place right now. And as I called out, the 20% that has been reported for vinyl sales is well over what it was last year as well. You do see that the CD category actually ticked up in terms of its year-over-year change in the second quarter of last year. And that was a lot of the K-pop releases. And we're going to look at that a little bit more in depth here in a few slides. But a lot of the K-pop releases that came in the second quarter pushed CDs up. All right, so let's talk D2C. Now, we covered this in our mid-year report, but I really wanted to showcase this here because there's a lot of really interesting findings. So through the first half of the year, now this is where we switched to up through week 26, D2C overall was up 20%. D2C vinyl sales were up 25% over last year. And you can see the totals here. Vinyl, 2.6 million D2C sales, CDs, 1.7 million, cassettes, 62,000. And when I'm talking about D2C, I do mean artist official stores as well as label stores. That's the bulk of the D2C category. So really those artist to consumer or label stores. Now, what we see in terms of genre is that rock is making up about 45%, with pop coming in second there. And then if you look at the category splits, it is mostly vinyl. About 6 in 10 D2C items are vinyl records, and about almost 40% are CDs, with cassettes at 1.4%. We have seen that cassette sales for D2C have kind of dropped back a little bit, both in volume and in their percentage of the industry total. So right here on this slide, we're looking at D2C sales as a percentage of the industry full total. And you can see that, in 2022, over 36% of cassettes that were sold in the United States through the first part of the year were via D2C stores. That's dropped back to 29.2%, an indication that more retail outlets are actually selling cassettes now. And so that's why that has dropped back. You do see that vinyl has actually ticked up a little bit in terms of the percentage that are sold through D2C stores. Right now, we're at 11.2% through the first half of this year, which is just about 1 in 9 US vinyl albums sold via artist and label stores, D2C. D2C cassette sales or CD sales also grew as well. One thing also that's really interesting about D2C, but I think really makes sense when you think about it, is it counter to the some of the trends that we've seen in streaming, where catalog is growing its share, and more streaming is of catalog year in and year out. With D2C, it's actually a very, very current sales platform, and you can see that over 60% of total D2C product sales are current releases, and over 75% of CDs and cassettes are current. And I was just thinking about this the other day. If I see a pre-order go up via an artist, either a social post, or I get a newsletter from an artist that the pre-order for the album is coming out, and there's a special D2C item I can buy with the vinyl record, I rush to the store and I put my pre-order in. So I think it intuitively makes sense that this leans current. But what we're also seeing is, super fans and how super fans interact with physical sales. So 15% of the general population can be defined as super fans, according to Luminate, and that is a fan that engages with artists in more than 5 or more ways. And that number in terms of music fans is actually 19% of music fans can be noted as super fans. But one thing I want to call your attention to is this stat right here in the middle. So physical buyers are more than twice as likely to be super fans. So if an artist or label is trying to figure out who their super fan group is, look to your physical buyers. These are the ones that are spending a lot of money. These are the ones that are outpacing the rest of the US music listeners by spending 80% more per month on music. And so that's one of the quickest ways to find your super fans, is just identify your physical buyers and be able to super serve them. We do see that millennials and Gen Z start to, in general, act a little bit more like super fans. So it does tend to, trend a little bit young in terms of super fandom. But definitely want to call out that big stat there that, we're seeing that physical music buyers are more than twice as likely to be super fans. All right, so I want to dive in just a little bit more on vinyl and show you where we're at right now. So right here we have the solid line, and the solid line is 2023 performance, and then I added a dashed line for 2022 because we are seeing that we're coming towards the holiday season. Holiday between November 1st and the end of the year, typically we see about 27 to 29% of overall LP sales coming in that period. So we are starting to reach that period. Overall, because of the growth numbers that we've seen in terms of that 20%, LP sales average 147,000 more per week this year than they did last year. I noted a couple of the big spikes here. You'll see Record Store Day from April, which had performance at 37% more than the year before. And then also I added in, that Taylor Swift release that we saw last October. Again, a lot of that spectacular growth at the beginning of this year, holiday sales that were, carrying over, but then also some of those big releases that really drove sales in the first part of the year. One thing I also wanted to call out, just as we're talking about fans and we're talking about vinyl, is I think that our consumer research team did a nice job of digging in on the price points that consumers say they would like. And the key takeaway here is that, price points really vary by audience. So knowing your audience is very key. What we were able to do is we were able to find that jazz fans, a loyal, passionate fan base, maybe a little bit more of a quote unquote niche genre, things like that. They're willing to pay a little bit more for their vinyl records than other listeners. We find that, 80s decade listeners, a cut right there in the middle, $25.80. And then, baby boomers, they're actually willing to spend, about $19.60. Now, this is their ideal, the consumer's ideal price point. And we do have the ability to cut this a lot of different ways by different fan groups but I wanted to showcase this as the distribution and the variety between fans in their ideal price point. But just knowing your audience is a priority to make sure that there's no money left on the table. All right, so quick look at top 10 vinyl albums for the year. This is through week 37, again, 9/14, year to date through 9/14. Taylor Swift is all over this. She has, I think it's 4 records that are in the top 10 vinyl sales for this year. But then also wanted to call out that, we have seen Lana Del Rey in this chart now in the top 10 for several quarters in a row. We see Tyler, the Creator, we see Fleetwood Mac. We see a lot of these that have just kind of stayed in the top 10 vinyl sales now for quite a while. I also want to call out Boy Genius there. Great performance from the Boy Genius record in terms of vinyl sales. Top vinyl artists, again, sort of like the top 10. This hasn't really changed a ton in the last several quarters. We see Taylor there on the strength of her LP sales, but Lana Del Rey, Travis Scott, Tyler, the Creator, Metallica seems to be a top 5 every time we take a look at this. Pink Floyd, Fleetwood Mac, the Beatles, Melanie Martinez. So it hasn't really changed over a ton, but these are the top 10 vinyl sellers that we have for this year. All right, now I do want to talk about CDs quickly. And what's really interesting about CDs is the growth in CDs from our point of view is we are seeing that K-pop is really powering CDs this year. And right now, as it stands through 37 weeks, it's 1.5% over 2022. But if you look at the top 10 for CD sales, 8 of the top 10 are from the world genre. And K-pop actually is part of the world genre. It's a subgenre in our system. And you look at the top 3 CD sales this year, you have Stray Kids, Tomorrow and Together, and Twice. The world genre and K-pop is really, really coming on strong in CDs. And this is something that we noticed after the first quarter, and then really continued to drive CD sales through the second quarter and now as well. And then if you look at the pie chart, I think it was in 2022 where world genre was the 5th largest genre for CD sales, and it has quickly jumped up to number 2, with just shy of 20% of CD sales being of the world genre, and the vast majority of that is K-pop. So wanted to draw your attention to that as well. Also, just wanted to, we're happy to share this deck, and Nicole, I'll send this deck through to you to be able to share with everybody, but just wanted to put a QR code in here too. That if you are a store owner and you're not reporting, please apply to be an independent retail reporter. And you can scan this code to learn how to do that. And with that, I will turn it back over. I really appreciate the opportunity, everybody. Thank you so much for your time today.
Jamie, thanks so much. We always look forward to Illuminate's participation. So thank you, Illuminate. Thank you, Jamie, for those insights. And again, great news that we're reporting all formats are, while it's sluggish, at least the growth has slowed down a little bit in recent months. Year to date overall, we're still up year over year.
For sure. And it's just that those spectacular gains from the first quarter have started to slow a little bit. But yeah, really want to drive that home that the gains are still very strong. It's just that the spectacular growth that we saw at the beginning of the year has descended just a little bit.
Yeah, good. Yeah, thanks for that clarification. And we're thankful K-pop is still here, still prevalent, which is obviously driving the CD format. And also thankful, while it's not a brand new studio album in terms of new material, that comping last year's Taylor Swift Midnight, we have another Taylor Swift Reimagine album coming out around the same time.
Yeah, exactly. And she's been driving a lot of vinyl sales, as you can see. So that's really connecting with consumers for sure.
Yeah, and also great insight on the D2C too, that they're driving primarily current sales. And while it's not the majority of the current sales, that just reminds all of us in the marketplace that there's a plethora of catalog that is primarily all of us. It's low-hanging fruit for all of us. So appreciate you touching on that as well, Jamie. And with that, we're going to let Jamie retire off into the distance, and just wanted to let everyone know that we are now going to segue into our first panel. This is damaged shipments. Have the changes implemented been enough? And just to provide some color on it, last year, 2022, the Music Business Association's Physical Business Action Committee formed a vinyl shipping best practices task force to help set industry-wide standards for packing and shipping in today's most in-demand physical music product, of course, vinyl. And with no set standards in place, retail locations were often receiving damaged shipments with product deemed unsaleable to the consumer. This, of course, resulted in lost revenues and frustration amongst consumers, not to mention a lot of incurred costs for all of us in the supply chain. And while we've seen some changes to packaging since the standards were released, the question is, have we seen enough? And we were prompted to revisit this. And while we issued the best practices, one friendly reminder is that we shouldn't necessarily just walk away from it and assume that everything is in a great place. So we're revisiting this topic, and I wanted to mention that we've got an illustrious panel here. Joe Schernick from Sony Music Entertainment, I have my good authority, is live from Legacy. Warwick Golby from Alliance Entertainment, who provides us great insights, both from a wholesale perspective, but also from a distribution standpoint on the operations front for labels that his company represents. Michael Howard, who also provides insight from both the label side as well as distribution. And then Justin Johnson from Dark Side Records, and Stephen Williams from Down in the Valley. So well-rounded group, 100% filter free. And with that, well, I guess we'll go to the next slide, Aaron, if we could. Now, we wanted to mention that one of the initiatives by the PBAC was to create kind of a repository, if you will, for retailers, wholesalers, everyone in the supply chain, to share some of the current challenges that they have, the end result, also with commentary. And so, what we're trying to express here is that the problem is not completely solved, of course. You can go to the next slide. And again, one of the many challenges is the cost associated with it. Credits have to be issued, of course, to whoever shipped the product to that final destination. And in some cases, we may not have the inventory available to replace this product. So vinyl remains a premium, and it's at a great expense when it arrives damaged. And then we just wanted to share some of the key points again on best practices. Here you see some shots of, optimum cartons and the ideal carton from the outer shipper to the inner shipper, and also the recommendations to limit the quantities as well as the weight. And also on the direct to consumer or smaller shipments, those same cartons may be shipped to an independent retailer for small shipments. That we also need to be mindful of how many units we're putting in those cartons, and strong recommendations. I know the company I represent, we still have some challenges, and that is not to reuse cartons, even if they're factory sealed. And then the taping to seal requirements that should be used directly on cardboard should be approximately 3 inches wide. And then recommendations on how the tape should be placed, and also our recommendations on the filler, and also pallets, that the manner in which pallets should be stacked or not stacked, and also how we store the cartons, whether they're factory sealed cartons or it's in a recirculated or a new carton. That we also need to be mindful of not stacking the boxes too high on top of each other, because the weight also creates issues. So these are just some of the key talking points, just as a refresher course. These are available in detail from the Music Business Association. Just send us a note. I'll be happy to share the comprehensive recommendations. These are again recommended best practices, not industry requirements. So with that, I would say let's go to the next slide. And this is the QR code for those of you that would like to submit examples of the damages and the comments that you have. And it'll also be featured, I believe, online so that you can mark that down for your notes. Next slide, please. Okay. There is no next slide. That means we go live to our illustrious panel. And with that, I would like to say thanks everyone for again being here today, and your brave souls. Now, I promise this will be pain-free. And I'd like to start out with those representing labels and distribution. And let's start with Joe. Joe, from your perspective, what, if any, progress has your company seen in terms of reducing the rates of damage? Has there been some progress made from your perspective?
By Joe, I assume you're talking to me, Steve.
Sorry, Joe Chernick. I'll use last names. You are correct, sir.
So we have been working with our distribution centers and suppliers to try and mitigate the amount of damages that we're seeing. I know that MRP and URP both have done some tried to improve their cartons that they're using. We have, as you know, for our loose shipments, we've implemented a couple of years ago the buffer box for up to, we have 2 boxes, up to 10 units and up to 20 units. We have gotten recently a lot of complaints about our full carton shipments. So we've implemented within the past week. You should start seeing it rolling into your stores. We're overboxing our full cartons now. So we're taking the full cartons, we're putting it in a protective carton, and hopefully you'll see the amount of damages those, because frankly, you know, they go into the FedEx system, and you know they don't exactly treat them with kid gloves. So hopefully this will mitigate those damages. Feel free, anybody, you can reach out to me, joe.chernick@sonymusic.com, if you're seeing excessive examples of damages. So those are the directions that we're heading. Of course, there's always room for improvement, and we're still working with our suppliers to improve particularly the loose and the loose cartons.
Yeah. Thank you, Joe. And you don't have to share the amount, but I'm assuming, you know, on the ledger, this isn't not an insignificant expense to Sony in terms of having to deal with damages still to this day.
It's not insignificant for anybody, really. I mean, we're losing money, and the stores are losing money. So the rate has gotten up to the upper levels. So people are very aware of what's happening. So there is an aggressive effort to try and resolve this issue.
Great, thank you.
I mean, the way the business has gone, we're shipping more and more parcel than we are LTL, and that's of course parcel is where you're going to see these damages.
That's right. Thank you, Michael Howard. Reach out to you and get your insights.
Yeah, so Steve, what we've tried here at Red Eye is just to get as much feedback as we possibly can from the end customers. So as they're seeing issues, getting the photos, I think one of the photos you shared might have been a shipment we had actually. So in those cases, we typically talk to our FedEx rep, for example, or UPS rep for that matter, and ask them to kind of give us a sense of what went wrong with the particular shipment. Our boxes, for the most part, seem to be pretty good, and people who we ship to seem to love them, but there is only so much abuse those boxes can handle, right? So we try to get the feedback we can where we can. As far as inbound shipments to us, some are better, some are worse, I guess. Depends on where they're coming from. But what Joe mentioned about, the overboxing and things like that are the key. I mean, like he said, like parcel shipments are always going to be the challenge.
Right.
So anything that you can do to prevent any kind of movement inside the box is going to be key to make sure it doesn't happen in the future.
Yep. Thank you for that. Warwick, you wear two hats. One is, in terms of the receiving end as a wholesaler, and then turning around and shipping to your customers, but also representing labels. So curious to get your insights.
Yeah, at the moment we're seeing, I don't know if it's just cyclical, but we're seeing fewer damages than we were previously overall. I think that's mainly due to pallet size product coming in. It seems to be packed a little better, structurally coming in strong. Parcel, unfortunately with parcel, just as Joe and Michael have said as well, we're at the mercy of the carriers whenever it comes to parcel packaging, making sure that it's strong enough for the carriers to be able to pick it up as well as to move it around. The one thing which we do see as critical is the weight of the cartons. So we went up to 50 LPs per box, which you look at that as that's almost 50 pounds of product. If you have somebody offloading boxes every single day, they're going to start rolling these boxes. They don't care what's inside.
Right.
So we've actually gone to the step of right now we're trying to limit every shipment to a maximum of 30 LPs to try and reduce the handling issues and the damages that you're seeing. Because to me at the moment, the killer is just weight. People are not going to handle it tenderly if it's too heavy. But yeah, otherwise, coming in, we are seeing fewer damages. The one interesting change that we're seeing is an increase in split seams coming in, which I'm not sure if this is really on the packaging side of it, but that's something which just seems to be on the increase recently.
Yeah, I've noticed that as well. That's a good call out. And also important to point out that the reduction from 50 pounds to 30 pounds is not insignificant in terms of the cost you incur by doing so. Yes, you have cost savings by hopefully reducing the damages, but you're incurring additional costs at minimum just for the materials in the cartons, and the inner and the outer carton.
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, the goal is to try and get the product there without any returns on it.
Yeah.
That may cost a little bit more to get it out, but at the same time, when you're replacing a $15, $20, $30 item, if you've got 10 of them in a box, that gets really expensive.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for that. Stephen, let's turn to you now on the receiving end exclusively. And I'm going to go on a limb and say you might have a few thoughts on the matter.
Yeah, I think from talking to other stores at the Record Store Day Summer Camp too, it seemed like it got better and then it got worse again. Justin can probably shake his head if that's true. I hope other labels and distributor and one-stops are on this. There's other one-stops that ship way too heavy and big of boxes. There's other labels on there that don't do anything. Got better and then got worse, cheaper cardboard. One of the big problems I think is it just needs more tape. Every week I get a shipment from one of the majors that has been repackaged by UPS or FedEx because the box is completely busted open. There's missing product. Sometimes, quite frequently, depending on the distributor or label, there's no packing slips in there. You don't even know what you're missing, what you're supposed to have in the box. It's been reboxed by UPS or FedEx completely in a box that definitely doesn't hold records,
Yeah.
So I'm still seeing a lot of that. More tape, honestly. It's baffling to me that some of these major labels can't just fix it, to be honest. I mean, the one stop seem to get it, Red Eye seems to get it. These bigger labels, we're talking, it probably has to be millions of dollars in damages in some of them. I just, how much do we talk and we talk and nothing ever changes, which is kind of baffling to me. But more tape, more, padding between the record and the outer box is
Appreciate that.
definitely key.
Good insights. Appreciate that. And last but certainly not least, Justin, your thoughts?
I've definitely seen a reduction in random bullshit coming to the store where it's supposed to be records and I'm getting cleaner or gloves or crayons. That kind of stuff is cut down. The boxes haven't changed. Like Steven said, they still need more tape. The boxes are falling apart in transit, especially as we get into the season we're approaching now, where things start to get wetter with rain and snow. These boxes do not hold up on the trucks where the drivers are going in and out constantly. The floors get all wet, the boxes get ruined. And just beyond that, Joe from Sony mentioned that they are looking to double box their, your full carton shipments. That would be a major help. But we've seen certain other labels try this and they'll double box it, but then there's no padding between the inner carton and the larger outer box. So the box just flops around in the inner box. So there's just still a lot of work to be done. That seems fairly routine to me. And if there was a little bit more care going into these things, I think we would all have a lot less damages. And as Warwick mentioned, seam splits have been huge lately. I think that, we know there was a shortage in paper. And so I'm guessing a lot of what's going on is using what's available in terms of jackets. I would say consider going for the heavier jacket if you can, because a good chunk of what we're actually reporting as damages are seam split records, and it's not really fair to ask this kid to spend $30 or $40 on a record that comes pre-damaged.
Yeah. So that's on Warwick's point. So would you note that there's been an increase in those split seams recently?
100%.
Yeah. Steven, you were going to say something?
One thing, I also press records, and my specialties like punk and metal labels and stuff. A lot of these metal labels are shrink wrapping their records in the middle of gatefolds, so that doesn't happen. And I've also noticed more indie labels are packaging the records in the jackets with the opening of the paper sleeve out. So if it does move around, it doesn't damage the jacket. It goes out where the shrink wrap is, where the opening in the jacket is. I'd love to see the major labels do more stuff like that, because that would also cut down on a lot of problems, and it's easy and doesn't cost you extra money to request it at the pressing plant.
Yeah, good call it there. Michael, I'm interested to get your insights, particularly with the split seams and if there's any action being taken or your thoughts on it.
Yeah, definitely. Split seams are a problem for us, just like everybody else mentioned. I do like the idea of kind of spinning it around, I guess, what he was just saying. But it also, a lot of people forget, I guess, how sharp the edges of vinyl are, right? I mean, it's a relatively sharp product, so it's very simple to do with any kind of shifting around in the box during transit, especially. So I saw it in the chat, but a lot of times I think these things actually happen when they come to us as a distributor. So, in cases where we're shipping out a large quantity of something, it might be hard to even catch that on our end before it gets shipped to somebody else. So yeah. I see Warwick shaking his head. He's probably got some thoughts there too.
No,
Yeah.
Michael, I agree with you completely. So we've looked at this quite extensively, but a lot of the time you can have 30 pieces in a box, and you've got 10 with split seams when they arrive. So it's really concealed. So if you're moving that box off to somebody else, if you're not opening it, you're not finding it.
That's right. Yeah, it could be a few months later before it's discovered, right?
Absolutely. But to Steven's point as well, I love the idea if we could turn the opening to face the opening of the sleeve to face the opening of the jacket, because then the album cannot slide out. It cannot, can't hit the edges of the jacket itself.
Yeah. Joe, are you still there? I'm wondering if you could weigh in on the topic. Hopefully we
Yeah, I'm here. I'm sorry. Yes, yeah,
good.
I'm here. I'm kind of interested in this split seam complaint. Is anybody noticing it with any particular format in terms of the number of vinyls in the package? Is it, or does it even matter? Is it just
It's
the fact that
non-discriminate.
It depends on if the box is dropped, I think. And we all know UPS and FedEx love to drop boxes.
yeah, they're not, yeah, like I said,
Yeah.
they're not, they're doing a Jim Carrey thing on it when they process it through the system.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Kicking it down the road for sure. I just wanted to just take a left turn for a second. Wade posted the question, can the best practices be obtained? I was mistaken. It's not, it's a deck. It's not presently available on the site, although Nicole, we should talk about that. But as Carrie indicated in the chat, and Nicole, just reach out to us and we're happy to send you the deck. So Joe, I'll go back to you. You're still dealing with different sources for the same SKUs, right? In terms of pressing and how would you rate the condition of products arriving from the pressing plants today, if you have some insight there?
Well, as you know, we're getting vinyl from all over the world. It's coming in from Europe. It's coming in domestically. It's coming in from all over the place. So, but most of it is URP, MRP. I mean, and it also depends on the label. We
Right.
have our orchard labels that, you know, they tend to go with the smaller production facilities, and Sony will go to URP, MRP. I'm not seeing any significant changes in the way the product is coming in, to be honest with you. The only difference is like I said, we've had some success with MRP and URP and improving the cartons that they're using. And if you guys are ordering full cartons, we can't repackage everything. It's coming in, it's going right into the racks, and it gets picked and put on a pallet and put on a FedEx truck.
Yep.
So, like I said, if it's parcel, I appreciate the comment made about, you know, we are starting to overpack our full cartons. I will bring up the idea of using some kind of padding, if it's possible, between the actual carton and the outer carton. We're adding cost here, guys, too, and we're adding processing time as well to package stuff. So there is an effect there, but I'll certainly bring that up. That's a great suggestion.
Yeah, Warwick, from your perspective, dealing with the AMP labels, I mean, it's again, it's coming from different sources. I imagine you have the same issue where the same SKU could be produced from so many different locations, and obviously overseas, traveling furthest distance, simple math, you know, greater chance of damages when it finally arrives to your facility.
Absolutely. And, you know, we definitely see especially with AMP itself, there are a lot of different titles being manufactured all over the place. And just the level of damages that we're seeing, you know, you can have one title with 3 different boxes from 2 different countries, and
Right.
one is great and one is not so great.
Right.
But it's just so varied at the moment. I do understand that in the record processing as well, those edges really are sharp too. And I've done that test multiple times myself, of taking an LP and shaking it around. So I can't remember who said it, but how were the boxes packed? Were they really tight or really, really loose? And typically what we are seeing is the boxes where there is a little bit of air gap, where it does allow some shuffling. Those tend to have more damages than those that are packed really tightly. But then again, having a really tight box is not a great thing either, because then you warp it or can do
Right.
other damage to it.
Right. It's a challenge. Yeah, for sure. Michael, from your perspective, again, receiving products from different locations in the same SKU.
Yeah, it's tough to generalize, but what I would say is there's a couple of things. So one, making sure that first off that it's on a good pallet. We still see a fair amount of product arrive to us that's on a pallet that looks like it's been reused in some way that probably shouldn't have.
Yeah.
Two is the use of slip sheets, and if you do use slip sheets, making sure that you strap the items to a pallet. What you'll see a lot of times is if people put items on slip sheets, then on top of a pallet, they'll shift slightly during transit. So what'll happen is then the corner boxes can get damaged by forklifts and other items kind of on the way. Making sure that we're using the corner guards, because a lot of times I think these shipments are bumping into each other inside of either containers or trailers. And I think that's really it. I mean, and then using quality shrink wrap as well, making sure that this is shrink wrapped well to a pallet and it's not going to get restacked during transit, because we do see that sometimes as well.
Yeah, it sounds to me talking to you guys that one thing we probably could do a better job of is maybe this is something the Physical Business Action Committee kind of takes on with the support of labels and distribution, is we need to reach out and get greater engagement from the pressing plants in terms of the manner in which they're packing and shipping their product. We don't interact with them as much because we're not a direct customer, meaning from a one-stop perspective or retail perspective. And we probably need to do a little bit of better education and outreach to that group in the supply chain. Does that seem reasonable? I mean, Warwick, you're nodding your head. Michael, you as well. Joe? Yep, absolutely.
Can I just ask a quick question, Steve?
Of
I just want
course.
to get some clarity on something. It's been mentioned of just repackaging the vinyl in a different way. They're suggesting so that the opening faces the opening of the sleeve,
Yes.
Yeah.
and you don't see an issue with any kind of shifting in the potential pairing of the
So usually seam splits are like, what, half an inch to 2 inches. That won't, in the box, it won't come all the way out of the record, and it'll just go through the shrink wrap, so it won't damage the outer jacket and shipping, and you'll have less problems.
Okay.
Justin,
And I feel like it's a simple thing to do.
Well, I don't know from a packaging standpoint, what kind of effect that would have on the equipment when they're putting the thing together, but I'll take it.
Like, I know URP puts it in by hand, so it seems to be that would, at least some plants, it would be easy to do. The ones that aren't, are still using manual labor to put them in.
All right, I'll take it.
Thank you. Thank you both. Justin, from your perspective, any insights on the freight carriers? It's another, another segment in the supply chain that as an industry, we're not really fully engaged. And it seems like they, I love the analogy. We've used it many times that Joe used, the Ace Pet Ventura pet detective philosophy. So do you have any sense in terms of the carriers, on the receiving end, as to, damages that may occur as a result of their mishandling it?
Absolutely. I think having a relationship with your carrier is an important thing. So in my case, as an example, I have a really good relationship with our UPS driver.
Yep.
And him to it. He's completely trained at this point now. When he sees a damaged box, he pre-marks it for me and lets me know that he has marked this box as damaged. Whereas FedEx, on the other hand, it seems to always be a different driver. There's always a different person delivering.
Yeah.
And those packages tend to be delivered in worse condition. So I think it does make a difference on, who your regional handlers are and what's going on. And we definitely, the box is the box. We all know they are not great coming from the majors and they are falling apart. But the actual carriers themselves, the ones who care, help us get a little further down the line.
Yeah, great insight there. Just curious, I'll start. Labor pool, still a challenge. I mean, when we're talking about quality control, can have rules and regulations, strong management, try to enforce things. Obviously, automation helps less it's manually handled. But Warwick, from your perspective, I know we at Ingram still have this challenge in terms of the amount of, hired employees versus temps to be able to fill the demand. Do you still find that that's a struggle from where you sit?
You know, we're actually getting better. We're starting to increase the number of Alliance employees versus temps for the first time in many, many years.
Good news.
Yeah, it's a nice change. But you know, we still have open positions with revolving people, and packing is one of those jobs that doesn't require any computer skills. So oftentimes those are the type of jobs that your temps do get put on. But we've tried to balance that and do training on the packaging specifically. I know that we don't get it right every time. Justin sent me a great example the other day of somebody who packed vinyl into 30 pieces of vinyl into a regular shipping box with no support around it whatsoever.
Yeah.
But that sort of feedback helps us to retrain folks and get everybody back on task properly.
Yeah, agreed. We're actually at the bewitching half hour. Just to wrap this up, Michael, any takeaways for you going into the holiday season in terms of best practices and trying to keep vinyl delivered intact?
I think all of the stuff we mentioned, plus, you know, trying to revisit how we're doing things constantly and making sure that we're, I guess, monitoring which carriers we're having problems with and communicating that out to our reps the best that we can.
Yeah.
We have a great relationship, for example, with our FedEx rep. So if we have issues, I'm able to have him talk to the local station manager and, you know, normally get those resolved. So same thing with UPS. So I think the biggest thing is just communication and figuring out how we better work with these carriers that are going to be handling the majority of what we're outbound shipping at this point.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, got it. Good approach. Joe, from your perspective?
Well, I mean, I've gotten a lot of some very good suggestions here today. Some very good takeaways that I'm definitely gonna step a foot forward on. I think this is a great forum, Steve. It's very helpful. I like hearing from you guys. Yeah, I got some things I can do now. So
Okay.
I really appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Joe. Warwick?
Yeah, you know, every time that we have this call, it's a learning experience, and certainly appreciate sharing the ideas across all the different areas. The one thing which I welcome is, you know, if anybody wants to come and see our process and see what we're doing, customers alike, you know, come and see what we're doing. We want to get this right, and we're willing to do whatever it takes to try and make this the best experience possible.
Great offer. Thank you. Boy, they're lining up at the door as we speak. That's great. Let me see. So Justin, one recommendation, if you summarize again, key point that we could really make a difference in improving.
I think it's important to keep the perspective that what you're doing on your, you know, at your distro, at your label, etc., affects the lives of so many people, not only your own workers, but, you know, us as retailers, you know, our receiving people, and ultimately the consumer, and just keeping that in mind and thinking about how is this going to make it safely to where it needs to go to light up somebody's day. Because, you know, coming in to get that new record is a big deal for a lot of people. And I think that's a good perspective to keep when we're talking about shipping these things to get to people's hands.
Well said. Stephen, my takeaway from you is tape.
Yeah. Well, like Justin said too, especially as prices go up on records, I mean, people want a good, they're paying for something, they want it in good shape. As far as like incurring some extra costs with extra padding and stuff, the amount of damages you'll cut down on will probably still save you money. And yeah, just more tape.
Well, listen, really appreciate all of you spending the time providing your insights, and also the commitment to improving it on all fronts. Michael, Justin, Warwick, Joe, Stephen, thanks so much for being here. Very insightful, and we'll keep the dialogue and the focus going. Definitely eye-opening. So let's have a more productive fourth quarter this year in terms of less damages. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Nicole.
Thank you. Thank you guys so much. I put that QR code back up here on the screen. I will send a direct link out via email tomorrow. And in that email too, look for those best practices. We have a document. I will put it up there and I will get the site updated with all of this information tomorrow as well. So be on the lookout for that. So thank you guys for sharing your insights. I think this conversation is something we've done a number of times in this forum, and I think each time we continue to find things that we haven't talked about before and have some information and some insights that we can take back and make this better. So we'll keep doing it. But we're going to move on from this conversation. We have some brief remarks from Mark, who's the president of Spin Clean Record Washer System. Mark, it is a pleasure to have you today. So if you want to turn on your camera there, and I'm going to turn the microphone over to you.
Thank you, Nicole, and thanks everybody for being on the call with us today. It's particularly appropriate for me to be talking with all of you because in addition to my role at Spin Clean International, my family has been involved with record retailing for many, many years. As a matter of fact, our insights about record merchandising and preservation is what got us in the business in the first place. So much to the point that, and you can keep the next slide is the half a century slide. Spin Clean International has been now in business preserving vinyl records for more than half a century, and it's given a great deal, or given us a great deal of experience in talking with music customers and record purchasers. Next slide, please, is the understanding vinyl. However, all of us know the market for vinyl records has changed dramatically in the last few years. As part of the surge in new business, we've experienced a whole new type of customer, younger, passionate, and very committed to record and vinyl storage, or not storage, cleaning, and insights about the customer are very new. In fact, we've learned, like all of you in the last year when Music Watch did the survey, nearly 70% of all the vinyl owners today want to preserve and keep their record collection in the most pristine condition possible. Unfortunately, though, as many of us understand, not everybody has been focusing on vinyl cleaning and preservation as an important supplemental part of our business. But because this, we have the solution. Next slide, please. And it's our famous Spin Clean Record Washer System. This very well-known product has been used by people for many, many years and offers a number of unique benefits, as you can see from the next slide. First and foremost, our streamlined basin does not need any AC or batteries. Precision built brush design allows our unit to clean both sides of your records at the same time. Self-adhesive rubber feet provide better stability to clean your vinyl record collection. Our award-winning design ensures uniform performance across your entire record collection, not just based on our experience, but by some of the most critical pillars of the vinyl enthusiasm in the industry, the Absolute Sound and Stereophile publications, who have both rated our product at the very top of the list in terms of best overall performance and best overall value. The merchandising program. First and foremost, the standard model we offer is easily affordable by all of your customers. It carries an MSRP of $79.99, which is about the price of 2 brand new records these days. A very affordable solution based on the amount of investment that people are making in their valuable collections. In addition, when you order a minimum order of $250 of our product, you get free shipping on that order. And finally, with a $500 order, you get an additional free unit that you can use as a demo unit in your retail location. After the last 50 years of doing this, we feel the best way of selling Spin Clean within the record store is obviously to have one on your counter and frequently demonstrate it to your customers. Next slide. In addition to this, however, we are going to be announcing at the end of next month an exclusive marketing campaign that we have developed surrounding our 50th anniversary year. And as part of this campaign, we want to roll this out through independent record stores exclusively. In addition to the campaign and the special product that will be offered, we are going to put a tremendous amount of effort on resources and advertising and resources behind it. We would love all of you to be involved to take full advantage of this unique opportunity. Next slide, please. So if you're interested in the Spin Clean product, we urge you to contact by October 18th, my colleague, Tim DeBacco at tim@spinclean.com and express any interest or questions that you might have, and we'll be glad to work with you in terms of helping you become an authorized Spin Clean dealer. Thank you very much. Any questions out there?
Well, thank you very much, Mark. We have Tim's email address here on the screen. I will make sure that this presentation gets in tomorrow's email as well, so they have it there. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Anytime. Thank you. All right, and we're going to move into our last part, an exciting one. As I said in the beginning, it is this committee that programs this event, looks at what we can do, looks at the topics that we should be talking about. And one of the things that has been coming up over and over again is a Own It campaign. And Carrie, who has really spearheaded this in our conversations, when SAG-AFTRA, started the strike and consumers were like, am I going to be able to see my movies? Am I going to be able to stream? Really brought the topic back up in our conversations that if you own it, you don't have to worry about that. So Carrie is here today with Chris Willman from Variety. Guys, I'm going to let you talk about the idea of owning physical product, whether it's a vinyl, a CD, a DVD, and what as an industry we can do to press this idea home with the consumer. So thank you both. Looking forward to this conversation.
Thanks, Nicole. And thanks to Chris for accepting the invitation to jump on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, glad to.
The reason I thought to ask you to be part of this is because you talk to a lot of musicians and artists, and this topic of music being physical also extends, and by physical, just to be clear, I mean cassette, CD, vinyl, just something that is not in the cloud, something you tangibly own, can hold, and need to find a shelf for. And that also pretty recently in pop culture has, for me, been extending to DVDs, Blu-rays, books, magazines. All of that feels like not only did it not ever all go away, but it's kind of bubbling up a little bit. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit about that, because when you talk to musicians, I've seen a couple quotes, most recently being your Allison Russell conversation. She purposely changed the timing of when she was making her latest record so that she could have physical product day and date.
Yes.
And I actually apologize to Allison for calling it product. She could have her masterful record on physical day and date so everybody could enjoy it at the same time. How important is that to musicians before we get into how important it is for customers?
Yeah, I think Allison will forgive you for the P word, product. I appreciate you making that adjustment. I'm finding that people are really working backward from the vinyl date that they know that they need to have in terms of when studio sessions happen. And it's not just the vinyl date. I mean, I didn't talk to Allison about this, but I'm guessing that like Grammy deadline dates affect things. So we just had the Grammy deadline pass. I think it was last Friday, might have been the week before. You can correct me. And so I'm sure she wanted to have her album out before that, because if you're kind of that sort of mid-level artist who has a following but haven't had like a big commercial breakthrough, of course Grammy nominations in November are going to give some extra life to that album and that tour. And you've got to have the vinyl release to go with that. So she's looking at the calendar, or her label is Fantasy, and they're going, okay, we got to have album out by September 15th or 20th, whatever the date was. And there has to be a vinyl release. That's just a given at this point. We're no longer in the world where you can follow up with a vinyl release 3, 4, or 5 months later, like we saw happening a few years ago. And so she's working backward from those two things and thinking, I was going to record my album beginning of 2023. Now I have to hurry it up and bump it into 2022. So she's gathering all her musicians kind of on the spur of the moment, getting into the studio there, A&M, before Christmas to make sure they get that album done to have it out in September. And I think that's very common at this point, that everyone kind of works backwards from a vinyl date, who's at least at that level. But you see it happening with major acts too. I mean, the Rolling Stones, Mick Jagger was just in the Wall Street Journal today saying, they put a deadline on themselves of having their album done by Valentine's Day. And they were kind of under the illusion that they could put it out almost immediately. And then they were told by their record company, which is now Interscope, no, you're looking at a Christmas release. And Mick Jagger said, somehow we got that moved up to October from Christmas, which, is basically the same. October is Christmas season. So, but, for major acts too, it's like that they have realized that they have to let that album kind of sit and simmer for a little bit while the vinyl is produced.
I do like the idea that artists are considering my album is out when there is a physical release. I was just lucky enough. Loma Vista asked me to go to New York this past week and interview Killer Mike to celebrate his new release, Michael. And that album had been out digitally for a while, but I still was the one to hand him the vinyl, and he was there when he was opening it up, and he was visibly moved. Like you could tell the 48 hours since that vinyl had been out, that was a different feeling for him. Mm-hmm. People had heard his music, they were singing along to it at shows for a couple months, but it's the physical release. It's the traditional, my record is out, I'm going to go to the store, pick it up. I'm going to, the tangible meaning of my record. And for some artists, it's because it is art all the way through, Killer Mike spent a long time showing us each picture on the inside of the fold and talked about the liner notes and talked about the choices that went into all of that. Is that still something that, because your beat runs the gamut of really established artists and then younger artists, is that still a thing? Are they, majority of them, still looking at the physical piece as art in and of itself?
Yeah, of course, hip hop is so different, as you know, and there are still so many hip hop albums that don't come out on vinyl or even CD at all. And I'm hoping that some of them sort of notice that, we have people like Tyler, the Creator, doing so well with vinyl that this needs to be a component of your campaign. But I think it's hard for them to get used to when their image is, these songs are ripped out of today's headlines, to sit on their music for 6, 8, 9 months. But aside from that genre, I think, yes, everyone at this point is willing to wait. I was talking on the red carpet at the Americana Awards last week, and I was asking some artists about it. And I talked to Adeem, the artist, who is, we could say, is sort of, a cult figure in Americana, but has a large following. And he said that he had to sit on his last album for a year to wait for the vinyl to come out after finishing it. And I said, wasn't that frustrating? Aren't you tempted to go back and want to redo it? That would be my impulse, is that you just tinker with things if it's not actually being physically manufactured yet. And he said, no, actually it was kind of valuable because I sort of came back to it with a new attitude. Like I was sort of revisiting the material after a while, and it felt like almost like I was covering someone else's material. But then he said, that's kind of the silver lining I look at, because it would be frustrating if you're being told at that level of artist that it's going to be close to a year before it can come out. But they know that it's worth it. I think, we're beyond the point. You talked about having that thing in your hand. We're not that many years past the point where like Jimmy Fallon would hold up a fake album cover for a digital release. And there was that sense that, yeah, you cannot hold up, a picture that you took off of Spotify or something. You got to hold up. And I think fans as Vinyl Groove would look at that and go, well, I should be able to buy that, right? And of course, when artists go on tour, they got to have it for the merch stands. That's so vital for them, as well as having it in independent stores. And there's so many issues with, I was talking to people about their merch stands with there's a big issue with venues taking a cut of the merch. And I said to some of the artists, does that mean you don't want to sell? You'd rather find a different way for your albums to sell? You want people to go to the stores? And they said, no, we realize how much people want to take home a souvenir from the show. And that used to be a t-shirt. But how much better is it if it's something you can actually put on your record player? So so many issues.
I like the idea of that being a souvenir. And there are a lot of record stores on this call, and I work with all of you, but I have been very clear in the past. I think it's important that vinyl and CDs and the physical is sold in a lot of places so that a lot of people have access to them. And, as we educate them, they all start to shop at their independently owned record store. But where you start off, maybe somewhere else. And I do love the idea of that being a souvenir, either of the show or the festival or of the time and place, right? That's what music and books and movies are, right? They're kind of like a road marker for where you were in life. If you're looking back on them 30 years ago, I just did a social media post for Green Day's album Dookie turning 30 years old and being middle-aged. There are a lot of people for whom that is a landmark album, and they want it in their collection, and maybe they want to buy it again to be part of the feeling. And there's been a lot happening in pop culture, a lot of essays and stories and memes and things. And two that stood out for me recently is a film critic named Richard Brody, who wrote in the New Yorker about what we lose when we let streaming services decide. He was specifically talking about movies, but I think it applies to all forms of physical media, when we let streaming services decide what we're going to watch. And I am a person who has a lot of streaming services. I watch a lot of movies and TV. I love pop culture. And it feels like it's never ending, right? The Netflix queue feels like it's never ending, but it is ending. There is a finite number of things on there. And, I saw that a local or an independent video company, Scarecrow, which is a video store somewhere, I think on the West Coast, has started mail order DVD rentals.
Oh, wow.
Blockbuster's stopping in I think 3 days, or not Blockbuster. They're stopping in 3 days, but this indie company is taking over because they said, we've got like 100 Scarecrow. There you go. We've got like so many more titles out there in the world than Netflix would have you believe, or even a couple of streaming services combined. And the idea that this past summer, there was a day when you couldn't listen to Eddie Grant's Electric Avenue on a streaming service. That's a summer song, and you couldn't get it unless you owned it, and then you can play it at your leisure. And there have been so many things coming up where people are coming to the idea of physical ownership from a bunch of different places. And Richard Brody's idea was, it's kind of an act of defiance to have your own collection of things, because it's you not letting a corporation that could be taken over, or somebody, who decided and Nicole mentioned the writer strike and the SAG-AFTRA strike. This is what occurred to me. If it all of a sudden becomes more expensive for Netflix to stream Friends because they have to pay a fair wage to writers or whoever, their cost goes up. What if they just take it down? What if they just decide it's too expensive? And then you can't watch what you are used to spending half an hour watching before you go to bed, but because somebody else made that choice. You can't listen to Electric Avenue when you want in the middle of the summer because somebody else has made that choice, whatever that choice is. But the idea of owning it and people coming to it, are you seeing that too? I mean, you are immersed in pop culture. Are you feeling that as well?
I'm certainly feeling it from people I know who already are bought into the idea of physical media. They're saying, see, I told you, when Netflix stuff is happening, it can all go away. And we've been trained to think that we're always going to have, as the movie title says, everything, everywhere, all at once, or whatever that title goes. And now what's happening with Netflix is and certainly all the streaming services is training people in the opposite direction, hopefully, that this is not forever. And yeah, we do have advantages with music we don't in movies, in that virtually all the labels have made deals with all the streaming services, but those could go away. And it may take a hard lesson for some deal not to be renewed, for people to realize how tentative all that is. So right now, I feel like I'm hearing it from the people who already buy the physical media, that this proves what I've been saying, and they're trying to evangelize younger people. And I'm curious to see whether sort of like the generation that's been raised on streaming sort of starts to get it at some point, and looks at physical media not just as like a great souvenir, a great piece of art to have in your living room, but a permanent storage device.
Right. And that may be why, because we've already got the converted or the people who never left, technically. An ad campaign or and maybe ad campaign is too strong. That's maybe just one part of it, but the industry, or the part of the industry where physical media means the most people on this call are here because physical is what they are invested in musically. An ad campaign to point out all these things in an incredibly positive way. I'm not saying streaming services should go away. I'm not saying people who believe in streaming or artists who, do primarily streaming. You're right. I can see a lot, especially in hip hop, or things where you're there, you're being creative, you're doing it, and you want the people to hear it right away. I get that. But the idea just keeps percolating, and I want the people to put in the comments your ideas. The idea of us doing an Own It campaign. And you can do it, you can take that in a couple of different ways. Own what you love, right? Physically own it. And then also own the fact that, I don't know, you love Olivia Newton-John and not just on her birthday. Own it. I love these records. Take that Spotify playlist secret thing and turn it into, yeah, I do. I love this. I really, really dig this band. You wouldn't expect it, but I love it. I own it. And here's me owning it.
And I'm fascinated by the K-pop phenomenon and CDs, frankly. I mean, if that can happen with K-pop, I feel like it can happen elsewhere. And the fact that they don't care about the vinyl, they want the CD. It's like I want to investigate that more.
Yeah,
because,
well,
something they're getting that we need to teach everyone else.
It kind of goes back to, the last part of the conversations where they were talking about the care that goes into packing the pieces to get shipped, because when somebody on the other end takes it home, this is the highlight of their day, right? This is what they want. So you have to put care into packing them. Well, K-pop is a glorious tribute to putting care into the package itself. And I think that, making them, I mean, they are all in, right? They are the army. They're owning the fact that they love these bands, NCT 127 and any of those other bands. That's the one I'm looking at right now. I have examples of the CDs on my desk so that when people ask me, what should we do? How can we make this piece special? Well, you could go, shop the K-pop section for a little while and see what that's all about. But that K-pop actually makes me think we have a chance with that generation, because they embraced that immediately and really wholeheartedly. And I just think if you can come at it from so many different angles, this potential campaign, which would involve journalists such as yourself and people talking about, okay, it's cool to own it and you can show off your collection and, you know, all those, you know, you can't roll a joint on a digital download and all of that. But it also is about thinking about, yeah, look at what happened with Twitter. It was one guy who drastically changed it and brought that down. People never saw that coming. You don't know what's going to happen with mergers or, you know, people buying catalogs. You just don't know what's going to happen to on the corporate business side of the music or whatever that you love. The idea that you have it and can access it when you want, that's so important. And yeah, nobody's putting ideas, but maybe they will later. But that's my thought, is that we need to communicate. Owning the music makes sense for so many reasons, and not only because A, artists get paid, B, artists love it when you buy it. Obviously, they want you to buy it from them. They want you to buy it from stores. They want you to buy it from wherever. But they want you to have these things. They put themselves into making it. They want you to have it the way they wanted you to have it.
Yeah, I keep hoping box sets hold on long enough to sort of turn people around, because I buy tons of vinyl, and I'm one of those people who's almost kind of forgot CDs, and then I'm reminded about CDs every Christmas season when all the box sets start coming out that I want. And I know that we've had people like Bob Dylan's manager saying, you know, we can only afford to do these bootleg series for so long before people lose interest. And I'm like, hang in there, because I think people are going to come back to this, because when I want to dig into a box set, I don't want to look up Spotify and see, like, look through a list of 60 songs. I just want to pull the disc out and stick it in.
Yeah.
And with again, going back to K-pop for a second, I keep hoping there's like a reverse engineering phenomenon where people start manufacturing more CD players again, because, you know, I've been trying to look for like a single disc CD player, and there's like one you can buy on Amazon anymore. So, and I know there's like lots of multi-disc players, but I'm thinking, where are all these K-pop kids getting their CD players? Since they're kind of so hard to find. And I'm hoping it spurs like a manufacturing renaissance for CD players personally.
I picture them all getting into, my niece is 18. She just got a car and it has a CD player. So I picture them all getting into like little, like 20 kids sitting in a Volkswagen listening to their K-pop in the CD player. But I do think that's not that far off from, you know, when people, God, what, 25 years ago saying, I can't get a turntable. I don't get a turntable. I really think consumer electronic shows, you know, they started having cassette players, and, you know, recently, and I think the CD is coming back. I think they're playing them. You know, Justin from Darkside says here, portable CD players are on the rise. He's reordering them frequently. So I think they are definitely coming back. I saw yesterday Doyle Davis from Grimies, his title is Vinylist, and his post on Facebook was, if you've got a turntable plugged into speakers, you should have a CD player too. So so I think we are you're being moved from place to place, and we're coming up on our time. So I'm just gonna say, if anyone has any questions, you could put those in the chat real quick, but I think you could probably look for more information from us or more ideas from us on educating people about why physical matters. It's great that there are essays and CD groups on Facebook, and, you know, the vinyl bubble is clearly not a bubble. If it's a bubble, it's a really big one. It's not about to pop anytime soon.
I use my daughter as an example of the faith that I have, because she's a Taylor Swift nut like I am, and is one of those people who initially didn't care about the vinyl, then realized the vinyl was really cool to have, but didn't have a turntable, was just happy to have, you know, the autographed copy sitting there. And then finally, like last year, it was like, Dad, I need a turntable. And I think, you know, we've laughed a lot about the stats that are out there about some of the younger fans who buy albums without having the turntable. But honestly, I was like that. Like when in the early days of Record Store Day, I started buying, I didn't have a working turntable. I started buying the LPs, and you let them sit there long enough and you're looking at them, you go, okay, I've got to play these. These aren't just objects of art or something. And so that's what's happening with the younger people. I think my daughter included, who's 22, that, you know, maybe there's that intermediary step where I'm content to just have this in my living room. And then finally you just go, yeah, I need to play this. And there's actually something so much more fun about it than streaming. And so I just, my daughter gives me a lot of faith that that generation is moving through the steps slowly but gradually.
Yeah. Well, and again, I'll go back to Richard Brody in the New Yorker. One of the things he said, and this is a nice way to wrap this up, is it's almost your duty to collect and save these things, these cultural treasures, these cultural things, and treasure meaning whatever you think is the treasure, because that could be the only way at some point. You know, conspiracy theorists jump on why this would be, but that could be the only way to educate future generations about what it was really like, because maybe some of this music will not be allowed. You know, t-shirts all the time, read banned books. Maybe this stuff, having it in your collection will be the way to educate people in the future about the bands, the music, the movies, all of that. So that's just another area to come from that. And I'm gonna thank you, Chris, and I'm gonna turn it back to Nicole for a minute, but I'm gonna quote him from that article saying, "Far from being nostalgic and conservative, the maintenance of a stock of physical media at home is a progressive act of defiance." And I know there's a lot of rebels on the Zoom, so hopefully they'll be with me on that one. A progressive act of defiance, which may make you need to shore up the foundation of your house. Who knows? Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Words of wisdom from Carrie Colliton. I love it. So thank you, Carrie. Thank you, Chris. Thank you to Luminate and Spin Clean and Steve and our first panel on shipping. There was a lot of great information that came out of today. So thank you. Thank you, Steve, for being my partner in putting this together.
Thank you, Nicole. Boy, that was a great end note. Chris and Carrie, thanks so much. A lot to pack in there. I'll never use the P word again. And I think we have a new T-shirt in the works in terms of that act of defiance for sure. So great feedback from everyone. And interesting to note that Mick Jagger had to wait in line. Not necessarily a good thing, but that even he had to wait for vinyl production. So thanks everyone for being with us. Know your time's a premium. And I guess, Nicole, we're looking at 2024 for our next Let's Talk Physical. So for that, I guess I would say everyone just have an amazing, outstanding, successful fourth quarter.
Yes, we will see you back here in February, and be on the lookout for that email tomorrow with the follow-up to today. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.